This past week, we celebrated Pastor John's birthday. We decided that we were going to stay 40 until we turned 50. So we don't believe in numbers in between. So every year we're turning 40, and we'll let you know when we're going to turn 50. But I put a Facebook post on, if you follow me, on Facebook, and really on his birthday, I really thought it was important to acknowledge all the things that he is unnoticed for. And see, it's interesting because I'm always the one out front, and I'm always the one in the limelight, but he's the one that makes it all possible, and he makes it happen. And so we really should honor him today. And so he is the greatest example of a man of God, the greatest example of a father, of a friend, of a brother. There's not many people that don't like him. Now, there's a lot of people that don't like me. But he's found a friend. He is a friend. He is everything that you would want in a friend and a pastor. And so we really give God praise for him. But what I love most about him is when we decided that we were going to be together, the first thing he told me that I knew he was the one, he said, "I don't like skinny girls." I said, hallelujah. He hadn't even asked yet, and I turned around and said, I do. We ain't got to go to the altar. I do. You the one. And the second thing that he said was the most sexiest thing in the world. Y'all want to know what it was? Yes. Honey, are you hungry? No, skinny girls, and you asked me, was I hungry? You are the one. The Lord sent him from heaven. I said I was going to behave, didn't I? I'm telling you, it is something, and he has been asking that question for 20 years. He has been consistent in that. But that's a problem sometimes now. Because see, it's now, he's a really, really good cook. Like, he's the type that'll make a peach cobbler on a Tuesday. Who makes peach cobbler on a Tuesday? That's like a Sunday dinner dessert. He'll just be like, oh, I feel like peach cobbler. Well, see, he looks the same when we got married. And he makes the best homemade biscuits. Hallelujah. Oh my goodness, he makes a sausage and gravy with biscuits that you would not believe. And when a man can cook bread, he really can cook. Do you know that bread is a part of every meal that you have? Not me, because I'm trying to be keto. I'm struggling, but I'm trying. I'm trying to do the low carb thing, but it's like you're supposed to have bread. I'm like, Oprah, I love bread. Bread is a part of a meal. Think about it. How many times, every meal that you have, bread comes with it. If you go to a restaurant, they bring bread to the table. I mean, bread is a part. Why? Because they know that little bitty portion they get ready to serve you is not going to fill you. So bread, it's the sustenance. It fills us up. And I love him, but I'm trying to tell him, kind of calm down on that "are you hungry" question. I'm always hungry. But bread is what we live off of. No matter what meal you have, from fast food to high class dining, there's bread somewhere around. And so we're moving into our new series, which is Seeing Jesus. We came out of seeing is believing. But we're going to stay in the book of John. All of this is happening in John. We talked about the miracles and the signs and the wonders. We talked about how belief is progressional. It grows. It should be getting stronger. And once you start to believe, then you will see him for who he is. See, some people, when we first start believing, we believe in him because of the sign, but do you really know who he is? Do you know what he's come to do? And so we're going to take this journey all the way up to Easter Sunday, and it's better known as the I Ams. Everybody ever heard of the I Ams? There are 7 I Ams, and we're going to take one per week, leading us all the way up to Easter Sunday morning, which is I am the resurrection. And so now we're going to go back into the Gospel of John. Now, y'all should have read John by now. I've been preaching about this for 4 weeks. If you haven't, do some homework and read through John. I love John because he teaches us. I love that John too. See how I did that? I love the Gospel of John because he teaches us that belief is not just something you're just going to do by osmosis. He teaches us to find the signs in your life that has caused you to believe. So today, the first I am we're going to deal with is I am the bread of life. We're going to pick it up in chapter 6, and I'm just going to give an overview because this is a long chapter. I don't have time to read it all. But we have to understand what's the context. Remember I told you context is important because you can make the Bible say something that it never meant. So we're going to do the context. So first thing we have to understand, it's right off of a miracle. It's the 2 fish, 5 loaves miracle. Anybody familiar with that miracle? Well, Jesus fed 5,000, and it was probably more than that, including women and children. They had all come to hear him speak, and they had got late in the day, and they were hungry. And so the disciples said, send them home. Y'all don't ever feel that way? Send them home. We don't have enough to feed all these people. And Jesus says, what do we have? And the little boy kind of stood up like, I got a 2-piece fish dinner that we going to feed 5,000 people with. And so Jesus just told him to bring it to him, and he began to break it and bless it, kind of like we did this morning. He began to break it and bless it. And before you knew it, they fed all the people and had leftovers. Only Jesus can turn a 2-fish fish dinner into leftovers for 5,000 people. You ever tried to feed a large group of people? My husband does all the time. I think he thinks it's an army that lives in our house. Because he never wants to run out of food. You can stop by my house, don't. But you can stop by my house on any day, and we will have a whole meal for you. Like I start pulling stuff out the refrigerator because nobody wants to run out of food. They had leftovers from a 2-piece fish dinner. And so the crowd was amazed. So Jesus was tired, so he began to go away. And the disciples went by boat, and the people were trying to figure out, well, how did Jesus get with the disciples? He walked on water. There's another story in here which I find so interesting because this is the same account that Peter talks about walking on the water, but John don't mention Peter at all. Now you would think that was major for him to put in this if somebody walked on water with Jesus. It wasn't major to John. It was major to Peter. Perspective is everything. That's why we celebrate the differences, because different perspectives comes with differences. Now we can't call John a liar and we can't call Peter a liar. Their perspective was different. So John talks the fact that they were in a boat and here comes Jesus just walking out in the middle of the water. Can you imagine? You're on the Good Time 3 and you look over on the side and you just see somebody just walking towards you in the water. Because he was still also working on the disciples' belief. They were still growing in their belief. And so he just walked in the water and just kind of got in the boat, Dave. He just kind of got in the boat. So the people managed to find him and they tracked him down. But the reason they were coming after him, he says that it wasn't for a relationship with him, but they wanted another meal. There's a lot of people that are infatuated with Jesus, but not because of who he is, because of what he has. He's not a genie in a bottle where you just rub the side and you get 3 wishes. He's not the one that you just come to when everything has gone wrong. He wants to have relationship. So when they came running to him, and he just hurt their feelings because he said, you really didn't come for me. You came because you were hungry. So a dialogue begins to happen, and he talks about how to do God's work. And they say, well, how do we do God's work? The people are asking him, how do we do God's work so that we can produce this bread for ourselves? Jesus tells them that they must believe in him, the one God sent. And then he began to share his recipe for everlasting life. And it is the recipe that he's given us as well. Wouldn't it be great if they just, when you were born, you came with a recipe card? Do X, Y, and Z. Turn around, shake it up, mix it, put it in the oven, and you'll have abundant life. Wouldn't that just be so easy? But he said it is easy. You were born with a recipe, and I didn't send you a cookbook. And his recipe for life was simply this. John 6, picking up in the 35th verse, it says, Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me, and yet you do not believe. This was too easy. See, the Pharisees in Old Testament, you had to work your way. It was about your works. So all you're telling me now is, I don't have to keep the feast. I don't have to burn the incense. I don't have to do all of these other things. All I have to do is believe on him. Oh, no, he didn't. Jesus' words sent the religious authorities into convulsions. Can I tell you, it still does that today? Because those who wrestle with that religious spirit, they want to find other things that they can do to be righteous. And then they want to hold you to that same standard. That's why Christians have a rap of being the most judgmental people on the earth. We are supposed to be known by our love, but we're known by being judgmental and rules. There's only 2 rules that he's asked us, and that's to love him and love others. Those are the only 2 rules. Where do we get all these rules from in Christianity? It is the spirit of the Pharisee. It is the religious spirit that tries to make us believe we got to do all of these works for us to be accepted in the kingdom. The Pharisees went crazy. Oh, no, he didn't. How dare he say that he is a special life-giving bread from heaven? Isn't this just Jesus, Joseph's son? We remember when we were doing, we remember when he was born, and we remember his father was a carpenter. And see, they'll say that about you too. When the Lord changes your life, and they go, ain't that Sharice? That same Sharice that was doing a whole bunch of things that wasn't Jesus. But they begin to question his integrity and where he comes from and says, how can he be this life-giving bread? So then he says again, he makes sure that he addresses their thoughts. He kept doing that so you wouldn't think that he was just an ordinary man. So in 51, he comes back and says, I am the living bread, which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread that I shall give is my flesh, which I shall give the life of the world. Oh, yes, he did. He basically says, stop complaining. No one can know God unless they know me first, period. Oh, Lord. Jesus got a little hostile. He said, I'm going to make it plain. End of story. Point blank. I started to put a T on the end of period. I wanted you to know that there was an ending there. There's no, what I'm saying is salvation comes through me, and that's all. Unless a person eats his flesh and drinks his blood, they won't be able to have a life with God. Wait till you see my next slide. Just like the bread from heaven that God gave the people in the wilderness. Let's stop there because they kept throwing up this manna that Jesus provided for their forefathers in the wilderness. And Jesus said, yeah, but they ate that bread and they still died. See, manna was given on a daily basis, and it was only for today. And if you tried to bottle it up to carry it into tomorrow, it turned into maggots. And what he was trying to teach them then is rely on me for daily bread. But what he's saying now is, now I done sent you the bread. But this bread will sustain the person who eats it forever. Well, the band breaks up. They say, you ask a hard thing. Did he just say we got to eat his flesh and drink his blood? This cannibalism. This can't be God. You ask a hard thing. But see, Jesus knows that some of the disciples still didn't believe. So a few of the disciples decided to pack their things and they head home. They said, you know what, Jesus? We was all cool until you talking about eating your flesh and some stuff. That's too much for me. I'm going to roll out. I'm going to catch you on the other side because right now I don't understand what you're asking me to do. I don't even eat meat. I'm vegetarian. Do you know if Jesus would have tried to do a 5,000 miracle right now, he would struggle? Because he would have gluten-free. He would have vegetarian, pescatarian. He would have vegans. It wasn't acidic or alkaline. He would have a hard time feeding. Our preferences tend to get in the way of seeing the miracles of Jesus. We said last week, our senses can be a barrier. They can hinder us to see what God wants us to see. So the disciple says, you ask too much. We love you, we cool, but we gonna head on out. Jesus turned to the other ones and said, are you going to? And I understand Jesus' heart because as a pastor, you have a whole lot of people that pack up and roll out on you. And you thought they were with you, that you thought they were, and then they just decide to walk away. And you can't help but turn to the people that stayed and say, look, you going to? Because I'm not about to continue wasting my time if you're going to leave too. Give me the ones that want to go. Let me ask you. Are you hungry? See, we all have this void that only the bread of heaven can fill. And if we're not careful, we will lean to our own vices to try to fill this void, this hunger. We try relationships. We try drugs. We try alcohol. We try anything that self-soothes this void. But it only satisfies for a very moment before you go into looking for fulfillment again. I can tell you that we're all hungry. See, religion is seeking to earn your way into heaven. We can sit right here in the church and be a part of a church. I mean, sometimes we can be leaders. I was preaching and I still had that void and I was seeking to fill it with things and works. I thought if I did more, if I prayed more, if I did this more, if I served more, if I did all of these things to fill this void. But that's religion, because you're trying to earn your way. You can't earn your way. It's unlike anything else, because everything in life you figured you got to earn it, right? You got to work for it. It doesn't work like that in the kingdom. Relationship, Jesus will satisfy our hunger and thirst to be made righteous in the sight of God. When I stop trying to do it my way, or stop trying to earn my way, or stop trying to seek the accolades of people, and I just trust Him and I eat upon Him, and my life is sustained. He's a better biscuit than the one Pastor John makes, because that biscuit fades. This bread will satisfy forever. He can satisfy our deepest needs and longings. He can make us feel full and overflowing with blessing. To live physically, we need bread. But to live spiritually, abundantly, and eternally, we need Jesus. Amen, baby. My babies is preaching in here. I leave you with this question. Are you hungry? Because He is always ready to welcome you to His table. You don't have to make a reservation. You don't have to call ahead. You don't have to see if there's going to be enough seats. There is already a seat prepared for you. He says, come to my table. I have what you need to satisfy your longing. I don't know about you, but I was lacking in longing for a long time. Even while I was preaching in the pulpit, I could never find enough to be full. And that's because I was partaking of everything else but Jesus. What have you been eating? If you can't have a meal, a natural meal without bread, how can you live your life without Jesus? I don't know who I'm talking to this morning, but I hear the Lord say the table is ready for you. If you know you need to come to the table this morning, I just ask that you stand to your feet. Nothing spooky or strange is going to happen. If you know that He has not been your sustenance and you want Him to be, I ask you just to stand where you are. Intercessors are praying, believers are praying, and don't wait for somebody else, because there's a single file line in heaven. And so you're going to have to answer Him by yourself. It can't be your husband's fault. It can't be your wife's fault. This is something that you have to have. And this call is not about you being saved or not. I'm not saying that you're not saved. What I'm saying is, you know that you have a need to partake of Him more. To begin to lean into Him more so that He can satisfy that longing. And I know what it's like to be looking for something and there's a void there. And we try to fill it. You ever was hungry and nothing is hitting the spot? That's probably not a physical hunger. It's probably a hunger for Him. Now I know there's a couple more people that need to be standing today. because he waited for me. Can I tell you, once I learned to eat of him and to rely on him for my sustenance, I'm not as stressed out as I used to be. I don't have a lot of anxiety anymore. I've learned to stand tall and let him fill me up. I don't tip to try to fill everything and everybody around me that I stay empty. I stand tall and let him fill me up, and then I let people live off of the overflow of what he's doing in my life. Because I used to tip, and we're all precious glass vases. And what happens when you start tipping in too many areas? You become unstable, and before you know it, the glass will break. He said, I'm not asking you to tip anymore. I want you to trust me to be your sustenance. I want you to trust me to let me fill you up, and you feel full, and you're full of me. And you will never hunger or thirsty. I'm going to wait 30 more seconds because I believe God is working on some hearts in here. Here's how you know the Lord is working on your heart. If the enemy told you don't stay, or if he told you she's not talking about you, or if he gives you what your title is, you this, you that, you can't stay. People look at you. You should be standing. You should be standing. Because the enemy wants to keep you trying to fill that void with everything else. It never works. I've tried it all. Been a lot of places, done a lot of things. There's nobody like Jesus. There's nobody that can feel you and be comfortable with you and him and don't need nobody else. If you're standing in this place, I just ask you to close your eyes. You can lift your hands and touch your worship posture, but if not, and I just ask you, just begin to talk to Jesus and ask him to fill me, God. I want more of you. Whatever. I want more of you. I need more of you. I tried it. I've been trying to self-medicate for all these years. And my answer is found in you this morning. Fill me, feed me. I may even be disappointed. Some things just didn't turn out the way that I wanted them to turn out. But I believe you have it all under control. Your word says that all things work together for the good to them that love you, who are called according to your purpose. And